Hi, Hol. Welcome to the podcast. We are so excited to have you.
Oh, thank you, ladies, so much for having me on. It is so lovely to be sitting down and having a chat with you both.
Oh, yeah. So, Hol, to get started, will you just start by introducing yourself for everybody? We know each
Sure.
other well because we're both in the Mia's Beyond Body team and CCI coach as well. So, yeah, please do tell everybody who you are
Of
and a bit
course.
about yourself.
Sure. So, my name is Holly Sunday. I am a CCI certified recovery coach and I live in Australia. And I'm also the co-host of the Beyond Body podcast.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And I love that podcast. All my clients love your podcast as well. Like it is a staple of their brilliant. So to start with, Hol, will you start? Like I actually have known you for so
Yeah.
many years because we've been in the team together for so long.
No.
And honestly, I don't actually know much about your recovery story.
Well,
So
let me tell you more about it
tell me
then.
more. Tell me more. I also know that you were obviously coached by Mia. So just
Yes.
bring in that experience as well. Would
Sure.
love to hear.
Sure.
Mm.
So, a bit of a quick little timeline. So, my struggles with food really started when I was much younger. I've just turned 30, so probably in my sort
Congratulations.
of thank you, thank you. It's great to be in the 30s club. I'm super stoked to be here. It's
It's
great.
great. Mhm.
We're
Um,
on our way out, by the way.
Yeah, we are on our way out. We're excited for the 40s club.
Like, can't be
But
I've,
stopped.
I've
but
heard
well,
good things about
it
that
gets
one as
better.
well.
It gets better.
It
It gets better and
does.
better.
I
Hmm.
love that. I feel like it just gets better.
Yep.
Um, so starting from a time where it like wasn't as good. So when I was younger and my struggles with food really started, I would go through huge phases of under eating and then would flip the other way and go through huge phases of over consuming. And, as a young person, I was in complete denials of my struggles and kept everything very private because it just felt so shameful. I think as a child, generally, I was really secretive and sensitive. And I think that's a really dangerous and lonely condition when you're someone who is at risk of developing an eating disorder. So I think for me, when I was younger, food or the lack thereof it just became the way that I coped with all of the emotion that my little heart just didn't know how to process. But I think my struggles became sort of more outwardly evident when I was a teenager and then I went to university and I moved out of home, living on my own. My eating disorder thrived, me not so much. And that's where my behaviors really got quite out of control and my psychological experience was just in the bin. And I did at this point clock that I had some really big issues that were sort of impeding every area of my life, but I attempted to improve the situation single-handedly at first, with little to no understanding or education about what I was actually trying to do. So naturally, something would stressful would happen in my life, and I would just lapse back into the behaviors because I wasn't really getting into the core of the work. It wasn't until I was about 20 where I one day made the hard phone call to my mum and took the steps to receive professional support, which looked at the beginning like a psychologist a couple of times a week. And boy, I just had no idea of what the recovery journey was going to look like or how much was involved in the process. And it was maybe 2 years down the track when I started working with a coach, Mia, who was recently on the podcast as well. Which I think was just the exact thing that I needed at that time in my process. I had already done a lot of the psychological back end work and really felt like I really understood my experience. And then Mia was so imperative in helping me just, I would say, like clear out all of like the eating disorder skeletons out of the closet. And we were challenging a lot of the covert behaviors that were really holding me back from full recovery. But it wasn't actually until years down the line where the idea of becoming a coach myself even crossed my mind. I think for a long time, my recovery experience, it felt really private and I wanted to keep it that way. I didn't feel like any desire to share it with the world. It just felt quite intimate, but I think, which maybe you would both also relate to, there's just so much meaning to life behind some of our biggest struggles. And recovery, of course, help me develop a strong and consistent relationship to food. But I feel like the real gift of how it support has the real gift of my recovery was very much how it supported me to develop a much better relationship with myself. And I think it was really that understanding. I kind of felt like I had this piece of the puzzle that I didn't have before, and it almost felt wrong to keep it to myself. And so I feel like that was the intention behind going into the field and becoming a coach.
Yeah, wow.
Wow. So inspiring, Holly. Like it's yeah, exactly what you said. Like that part of it's so interesting as well how you started with taking that break away from it and feeling like it is something that you wanted to move on from. Because that's something we talk about is often when people like recover, they either want to like really give back, be in the space, or they're like, I'm
Mm.
done, I'm over it, like want to close the
Totally.
door on that. And but you kind of started there and then you moved back into it. And that
Mm.
missing piece, like knowing yourself through the recovery journey is so powerful, isn't it?
I think the separation was really necessary for me because, it's it's like full-time jobs going through recovery. Like just even like how time poor you become because of there's just so many appointments and so much challenging and all these things that I feel like I just needed to live my life and really be able to integrate a lot of the things that recovery taught me. I feel like a huge one was sort of towards the end of my time working with Mia and sort of the end of my recovery experience, it really shook me in the sense of I was like, I just actually don't think the lifestyle that I'm living and the choices that I'm making are in alignment with who I want to be moving forward. So I think that was this real catalyst for me, entirely changing my lifestyle, like moving to the coast, moving out of the city, leaving a long-term relationship, like leaving a 9 to 5. And I just wanted to like enter that season of life and just really live it, just like completely live it. And then I feel like, I think so sorry, totally going off course here, but I feel like there's just so many things you learn from recovery. And one of them for me was this huge desire to like live with meaning. And I think that step had to come first before I could then be like, well, now I think I could add meaning back to the world in another capacity through service, if that makes sense.
So much
It
sense.
does.
So much sense. I think when people think when like recovery is literally about kind of getting the nutrition up, getting to a,
Yeah.
a better relationship with food, but it's so much deeper than that. There is so much more going on. It literally does create meaning in your life, purpose, figuring out who you are, all of those things.
And I think that that's what keeps me so anchored to the work with coaching. Like it's the most beautiful thing in the world. Like say working with someone, I know you do as well, Sapa, work with under 18s, but like so beautiful working with someone, this shy 17-year-old girl who just has no belief in themselves and then working with them for 3 years and then seeing them just like blossom and bloom into the world and being able to like hold someone's hope before they can and believe in themselves before they can. Like I see the world in some of these women that I work with. Would also love to work with men. I just currently don't. And I feel like it's that aspect because so many people do have this idea of, oh, an eating disorder and then recovery. It'd be like, well, you're recovering to have a better relationship with food, but ultimately you're recovering to have a better relationship with yourself and the world.
Hmm. But do you feel like you almost need to move the food out to create space for life to move in?
Absolutely. Like it just needs to get put in proper perspective. Like it just needs to be like at the beginning, yes, it's so necessary for it to like take up a lot of the space and do the thing, but at the end of the day, we all just have to eat every day. It doesn't have to be the center of your universe.
Mm, yeah. And
Yeah.
do you feel like as well, like you took that time out to find yourself a bit, so to speak,
Yeah,
but it takes
I'd say
time,
that's
right?
exactly
You
what
almost
happened.
have to like trial and
Totally.
error it, try different things. That's not for you. That didn't fit right. Like I feel like recovery is such an ongoing process, way beyond the point even when you say, I really feel recovered now. But even
Yeah.
after that, I don't know about you, but I found like years down the line, something else would shift and change, not necessarily related to food, but maybe something like the eating disorder took away. And then I'd feel like, oh,
Yes.
I've just discovered this new thing, or I don't know, it feels very ongoing for me, but the
Mm,
food has to be obviously taken care of to be able to like carry on
exactly.
that part of the journey.
Exactly. And it's so nice when someone gets to that stage in their recovery where it doesn't have to be about the food all the time. Because, I think how we describe coaching a lot of the time, it's really helping you understand who are you recovering to? Who's that person actually going to be? And then when you have some of those more foundational skills of being able to emotionally regulate and being able to know your boundaries and being able to, be attuned when an environment or a relationship or a place that just doesn't fit who you are anymore, and then being able to listen to that and then take those brave steps of acting on that. I think that's where the like never ending evolution actually comes from.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. And is there anything like from your experience of being coached from Mia that you now use with your clients, like to get
Yeah,
that, to like get to those covert behaviors or
for sure.
um yeah, just bring your own personal experience of recovering too.
Yeah, I mean, Mia and I, we are yin and yang in terms of like personality expression, but we have so many common threads of values and intention with our coaching. And I think that's why we also gelled as me being her client before I then, work with her as a coach. But something she showed me as a coach that, and has really helped me cultivate over the years is as a mentor, is being able to know with whom and when and how to offer tough love. which I've seen over the years with clients is so often necessary to like pull them back into alignment when they've kind of gone astray, or even just to help them stay connected to the bigger picture. As well as, coaching, obviously a huge part of it is being able to keep someone accountable and put them in the driver's seat of their experience. But at first, I really struggled to be able to hold up the mirror for someone. But I think in any significant healing journey, the hard truths just can't be ignored. And Mia's been really foundational in giving me that skill.
She's so good at that, isn't
It's
she?
brilliant. Very
She's
kind,
so
kindly
good.
straightforward.
Like kindly straightforward. That's such a good way of saying it. And I remember once in like
So
our
fluff.
team, yes, the tough love. I remember in our team meetings once you were like, Mia, you're so good at like the hard, cold silence, like just holding that silence. Whereas like, when you just like want to jump in and just like say something,
100%.
she's so good at like, no, I'm cool. Like you want to just take a time to answer that and just be in silence. That's
Yeah.
fine.
Yes, I feel like I've really improved with holding the space and like holding the silence. Whereas like at the beginning, I would have crumbled. I would have been like, I'm taking up every millisecond of this call.
Oh, I love that.
So, Holly, one of the things that you are interested in, talk about, work with is embodiment. So, I wondered if you could share
Mm.
more about what that is for people listening who might not know and how it could relate to eating disorder recovery.
Sure. I think when people often hear the word embodiment, they're like, that is like so unobtainable, and I don't necessarily understand what it is. But I think it's been such a powerful thing being able to understand what embodiment is for myself, practice it in real life, because I feel like with embodiment, how you teach someone else is via your own embodiment, right? But I think one of the best ways to understand embodiment is to first of all understand what disembodiment is, because even if someone isn't aware this has been their experience, the fact that they've had an eating disorder means that they were in a state of disembodiment for some time, which in its simplest terms is a disconnect between mind and body. So obviously when anyone is falling into a disordered relationship with food and their body, we were all, on some level seeking something, and whether that is to be accepted or to quiet the thoughts in our head, or, to even consciously or subconsciously numb emotions, anything, right? Whatever, no matter the reason we were falling into it, through that process, we left. We left the body, and the body becomes separate. And when this happens, we start to live only from the mind and work with the product of the mind, right? The body then becomes this thing, it's seen as disposable, it's seen as a problem, it's something to be objectified. And it's this separateness of mind and body, that's the disembodiment. And it's really from that begins this relentless fight within individuals' bodies. I really see eating disorders, like in their essence, when we strip it back, it is just this set of physical acts to really try to negotiate what your body and mind are perceiving as an overwhelming internal and external experience. And then the eating disorder symptoms, they're employed in this misguided effort to actually make everything like okay in the short term. They're more as an effort, I guess, to like feel connected in life. They actually can offer the illusion of embodiment. But I think when someone then they take the really brave steps to be able to embark on recovery and the unknown future of this path, at some point you have to start relating to your physical experience in this world differently, like with new understanding and with new perspective. And I think there's a point where you have to jump ships, right? So let's say your eating disorder is on one team, you and your eating disorder, you're on one team. And on this other team, it might be your recovery team, your professionals, your family, and your body. They're on this other team. And I think sooner or later you have to jump ships, right? Where you are coming onto the recovery team, and in that team, you and your body, you have to work together, right? And that is ultimately what the embodiment is, right? You have to start this continuous conversation between you and your body where you can begin to understand the language of the body, which is probably, if you've had an eating disorder, probably feels so foreign because you were totally out of practice of trusting anything that the body has to say. Because I feel like any previous attempts the body has had to communicate with you, the eating disorder is probably seen as a threat. But I really see the purpose of this work being to work towards experiencing the body as a home and as a resource. And that means the body has to be part of the conversation. It has to be present. It has to stay online. I think, Saf, maybe like you said this in like a meeting or a podcast ages ago, but that you can't think your way out of an eating disorder, right? And that's where the embodiment piece really comes into this, because obviously when we're engaging in eating disorder behaviors, like, yeah, the body's present, like the body's moving through the behavior. But the difference is that the body is offline. It's not part of the conversation. Its needs weren't considered in the decision.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
It
So
makes
much
so
sense.
much sense. And like you're saying, the body being offline, it's almost like
Yeah.
you cut your body off. Like my body,
Yeah.
delete any need, like ignore any
Yeah.
needs that my body might have. It's like you want to be a robot. Like I don't want my body to
Yeah.
exist because it just needs to go
Yeah.
through what it needs to go through. And it's almost a pain, your body, because it's like, stop telling me you need this, stop being tired, stop thinking about food, stop. Like,
Mhm.
you're like completely overriding anything your body might
Yeah.
tell you. You're like, delete,
Yeah.
delete. No, you have to do
Mhm.
this.
Don't
Yes,
trust it.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly, right? So then you can see the antidote to that is positive embodiment, right? Where it's like you are working with your body. And ultimately, there's so many different ways that someone can do this. And I know it can feel like super overwhelming at the beginning. I really see embodiment in my experience, how I would sort of describe it, it's this anchor I'm always returning to. It's a sense of presence, it's a sense of connectedness that I get when I'm living through my body. It's really something that informs how I want to live out my days. I think what it would look like for me, it's like when me and my body are, we're doing this life together and we're attuned and we're in this like consistent conversation. Obviously, on a basic level, that looks like, responding to your body's physical and emotional needs like hunger, tiredness, overwhelm, overstimulation, big emotions, etc. But the work is to do this while keeping the body online as opposed to disassociating as eating disorder behaviors do. I think it's
Mhm.
also, unlike eating disorder symptoms, embodiment actually offers more than just like the short-term relief from the distress. And it's actually compatible with like all the good stuff. It's compatible with happiness and safety and satisfaction and peace. But making the shift from disordered behaviors to positive embodiment, it's really substantial. And it integrates not only how you are experiencing your body, but then also how you're experiencing the world, how attuned you are to what's happening externally for you as well.
God, this
Gosh.
is fascinating. The,
Right?
the thing
I
is,
told you, it's amazing.
it's so
Yeah.
interesting. I don't know anything about this, by the way, Holly. So this is all like very new and interesting to me. But the thing is
Oh, I
making
can
me
give you heaps of books to
think,
read.
okay.
Yeah, I feel like in recent years there's a couple amazing psychologists who have like really deep dived into this work. And it's so fascinating because it's kind of like at the end of the day, strip away all the behaviors. There's this psychologist, hang on, let me remember her name.
I was
Hang on,
going to
her book.
say, please give us some names and recommendations.
Yeah.
People can look them up
Look, I'm not sure what her name is, but I'll send it to you and you can put it in the show notes.
in the show notes.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
There's this amazing psychologist, and she really talks about eating disorders as just mind body disorders. Like that's how she refers to them. And ultimately, that being able to make that connection again, that is how someone they receive more agency about what their needs actually are. Because it's really hard and lonely out there in the world if you feel like you don't know how to meet your needs because you don't know what they are because that's always been silenced. And I feel like the body speaks in pain and symptoms, right? And so when you like start to learn that information, you can be like, okay, like how are we communicating? What's it actually going to look like? I sort of when I explaining it to clients, I sort of say that when you're trying to understand the language of the body, think about it like you're learning a new linguistic language. Like you're not going to know the slang if you haven't taken the time to know the vocab. Like it takes time, particularly if you've been like literally understanding a different language for, years, decades. It's a really slow process. And I also think it's really important in this work to do it with a lot of care and be really gentle because for a lot of people, being present with their emotions, being with their body, turning towards as opposed to away from, can actually feel really unsafe, particularly if someone has a trauma history. And
Yeah.
so ultimately, what we're trying to do, it's not like remove the hard emotions. Like eating, I feel like, eating sort of behaviors like, whoa, you're anxious. Fuck that. Let's get rid of it. Like we have got to get rid of
Mm.
that. Whereas what this is actually doing, it's like it's creating this container in your life where you feel like it is safe enough to start to let these emotions actually process on their own. So a lot of people are actually already doing this. They may not have the language to sort of define, oh, that actually is an embodiment practice that I'm doing, right? So obviously wait, how should I describe this? So there's sort of like two main parts to how you would really understand embodiment in relation to eating disorders. The first part of it is the internal work. So this is being able to create that level of attunement to what are my physical needs? How can I respond to it? What are the emotions here? What's my body trying to tell me? And then the second part is the external aspect of it, right? How do I actually practice embodiment? And there's so many different ways to do this. I feel like a way that I practice embodiment most days would be jumping into the ocean. Just that feeling of when I'm like diving into the big blue. I'm not thinking about anything. Like mind and body are present. We're there together. For some people, that could be like having a cup of tea and just like watching the rain outside and you're just there in that moment. Or it could be like hugging one of your kids or just being completely present. And any situation where you are all there, that's
All there.
embodiment. That's what it is, right? So it even could be like you're dancing around the kitchen and you're like singing to a song, right? Or it could be like expression, creativity. You know, I feel like artists are so often ostracized in the world for like doing things that are like so out of the norm, but it's like, but I just feel like they're so embodied. I also think a great way for someone to really try to figure out, well, how am I already embodied in my life is think about yourself as a child. You know, children are so often the most natural expression of embodiment. They're big with their emotions, they're unconditioned, they can access that experience of awe so easily. So like think about yourself when you're a child, or even like if you're a mum, think about your kids, like in what ways are they embodied?
Wow.
Mm.
But you know,
Yeah.
So
in you
true.
saying that, it's making me feel like the world is not really set up for embodiment. Like we live in such a fast-paced world with such high expectations, and a lot of the time there isn't time to be tired or respect your body, stop if you need to stop, slow down. Like because we almost have like too much on our plates, you know? Like you feel like you almost need to like scale things back a little bit to create the space to be embodied in your life.
Absolutely. And I think, realistically, modern society is working against us. Like it's loud and there's so much overstimulation and it's always on to the next thing, on to the next thing. And, diet culture is a part of that and hustle culture is a part of that. And I feel like I see embodiment as being sort of this practice for me where I say, I'm not playing the game anymore. Like, this is a
Mm,
priority for me and I'm going to make time for it. And
mm,
there's a lot of empowerment that comes with that because I think anything that's a priority, you'll find the time for. And sort of, I remember years ago, I used to be much more, I'd say like highly strung. And if I was late, I'd get really stressed and like way more rigid than I am now. And I remember a psychologist saying to me years and years ago, she was like the world will wait. Nothing bad's going to happen if you're late. Like it's okay to be late. And I was like, whoa, that's actually so true. I've added like so much urgency and pressure and like emotional value to like hitting, like ticking a box at the exact right time. And at the end of the day, my approach now is like, it's just not worth stressing out my nervous system. Obviously, I'm respectful of people's time, but if I'm running late, I'm just not going to stress out my nervous system about it and be like, it's okay. The world will wait. Nothing is actually more important than my peace.
mm. I love that so much. And what you said about kids as well, like I feel like I've learned so much about embodiment from my kids. Like just this morning, my son was like pointed at the sky because it was the daytime. He's like, "There's a moon,"
My
and
kids
it's
do
like, and
that.
he,
I could see that. My little girl pulled me
Yeah.
outside, mummy, mummy, mummy. And I was like, what is she doing? What's she doing? And she was trying to say moon, but it didn't sound anything like moon. And then she pointed up at the
oh,
sky and she was like, moon.
it's amazing though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because we just take that for granted. We're like, yeah, there's a moon
So
at
beautiful.
7 a.m. in the morning,
Day.
isn't that's fine. But they're like, this is incredible. And
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, this it did in that moment. I was like, this is incredible.
Uh-huh.
We are standing on this earth that is rotating and the moon. And he's like, now the moon's over there. And I'm like, yeah, it's incredible, isn't it? And you're so right. And
Mm.
you know what, Hot? I love what you said because they were all small moments that we could bring into our life for embodiment.
Yes.
Having the cup of tea whilst watching the rain, that
Yes.
sounds so nice. Like, I didn't expect you to say that. I thought you were going to say, like, you need to do this yoga practice and this stretching exercise and
Breathing.
this. And like, I'm like, oh, wow. So I can actually bring embodiment into my day to day because something I was
Yeah.
interested in knowing, because sometimes I really struggle, to be honest, to engage in things like yoga. I'm so in my head. And so I was wondering, like, does embodiment look different for everybody? And like, even does it
Absolutely.
look like different for you on a day-to-day basis, like from one day to the next?
Yes.
Does it change the
Oh,
practices?
yeah, absolutely. I think embodiment should and will look different for everyone every day because you're different every day. Your needs are different every day. Where your nervous system is sitting is going to be different every day. Your stress levels and your capacity. And obviously, there's the formal mindfulness practices like meditating and doing yoga, but there's also like the informal mindfulness practices of just being in the car and being aware of your breath, right? Or
Mm,
literally just taking like 5 seconds before a meal to be like, check in, am I here? Am I present? right? Or
Mm.
even like, everyone brushes, I'm assuming everyone like brushes their teeth probably twice a day. Like even in that moment, you could be like, okay, this is just my me time. I'm just going to close my eyes and I'm just going to like try to be here. If you can acknowledge anything where your mind and body are doing the same thing at once, that's embodiment, right? So that could even be for a lot of people getting into flow. If you have an activity where you can just be totally present in it, if that's like for some people it's a sport, or if it's like painting or like singing in the car, whatever it might be, anything like that can be considered embodiment. So it's ultimately like you are turning towards, not away from yourself. And I think we're it's always going to be work because we are swimming upstream against all like the pressures and the busyness of life. But I think it's also a choice to choose to be present in your life. I think, my greatest fear is getting to the end of my life and being like, whoa, I missed it. Like I literally
Wow.
missed life. Like I ticked
Mm.
the boxes and I did the things, but I wasn't really there for it. And I back to sort of talking about kids, like, my belief is like everyone's born embodied, right? Sooner or later, like the disembodiment comes when I think we have these pressures of who we're supposed to be in the world. And, in the same way, like no one's born hating themselves. This is learnt, right? And then I
Mm.
think so much of recovery, it's unlearning. And, you know, I think embodiment is the same. It's like this sense of embodiment, like this sense of worth, those things have always been there. It's just about like pulling off the layers that have stopped you from understanding what that might actually look like for you.
Wow.
That
Yeah.
makes me think when you talk about recovery and embodiment,
Mm.
like there are times in recovery when you can't rely on your body. You can't rely on sensations like hunger, or you might have too much
Yeah,
anxiety before a meal to be able to stop and connect. Or maybe it's actually better for you to
yeah,
disconnect from how you're feeling around food so that you can
yes,
focus on where do I need to go, not how do I feel right now,
yeah,
kind of thing.
yeah,
So when you
yeah,
do you bring it in at certain stages in recovery? Do
yeah,
you, like how do you integrate it
yeah,
into needing to like
yeah.
challenge food and get out of the eating disorder?
Yeah, such a good question because realistically, for a lot of people, it's not going to be possible for them to be like, right, I'm going fully into my feelings and I'm going to like sit here. I'm not going to have any healthy distraction. I think something like healthy distraction, it's a stepping stone, right? And then maybe say it was like a real challenging meal. You're like, I'm going to work on trying to be present for 3 minutes and then I'm going to engage in my healthy distraction. Because it's really building up your tolerance to be able to stay with yourself. And for some people at the beginning, that just actually might not be useful. If someone is in a position where they're underweight and they have a huge weight restoration goal to achieve, it's first of all going to be about make sure that person is cognitively functioning and they're no longer at a risky place with their health before really engaging in this work. This is
Mm.
one of the really cool things to look forward to once you've sort of stabilized and neutralized a lot of behaviors.
That makes
Mm.
sense. Yeah. Yes. And
Yeah.
like you're saying, like it's adaptable to you and the time of year and where you're at and your
The
recovery
time of
journey, that kind of
day.
thing.
Yeah, like I would love in my life if I had, 30 minutes to sit down and meditate in the morning. But sometimes that's just not going to happen. I feel like some days the embodiment practice for me could be like choosing to sleep in. Like that is like that was me being attuned to my
Mhm.
needs on that certain day. And embodiment practice could also be like having a really beautiful, deep conversation with someone that you're like, I felt so connected in that and I was completely present. That could also be it.
Mm. That also makes me think then that some embodiment practices, if that's the right word, won't even be accessible to you in your eating disorder because you can't be fully present because your brain is so preoccupied with food and so hyper aware and going through your rules and checklists of the day,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So I think if someone's in that situation, if they can even acknowledge, can I get an hour in the day where I'm not thinking these things? Can I get 30 minutes in the day where I'm not thinking these things? Like that would be the initial goal there.
Hmm.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then also, even as recovery goes on and you feel recovered, knowing how to protect your own recovery. Like there might be times when you hit stress in
Mm.
life and you need to go like robotic with your eating, something like that.
Yeah.
So I guess it's like knowing yourself and like an embodiment. Then would it be knowing what works best for me and keeps me well long term so that I can then return to a place of intuition and following my body cues around hunger, that sort of thing.
Exactly. So I think there is going to be times where someone's just going to have to be like, all right, let's just go back to the basics. Let's just do what we know we need to do to keep ourselves stable. But then I think the extra piece there is really acknowledging why can't I stay with myself? What's the thing that's pulling me away from myself? How do I return back to myself? Even if it may not feel safe to do that then and there. Like, say someone is doing really deep healing therapy work and like something big has really come up. Yeah, it is going to probably be harder for them to be able to stay with themselves and access that. Like, say someone is going through grief or loss, they're not going to be able to be present with their emotion all day, every day. And that's not going to be healthy for them, right? It's always, I think that sweet spot for connection when you're doing this work in the same way, like the sweet spot for growth, it's that cycling between restoration in what is safe, even if the thing that is currently safe is, something we're trying to get rid of, and then challenging yourself to do the new thing and being able to move between those two phases. And then ultimately, if like the thing we're moving away from that is currently unsafe is a maladaptive response, we can have more of that the new safe thing, the embodied thing, the learning to stay with yourself. That's what's occupying all of the space.
Wow.
Amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what you said, Hol, about like I'm doing life with my body, like I'm doing this in partnership with my body. I feel like that's just like a thread coming through everything you're saying. Like there is no rigidity with this. It's about like befriending your body, being in connection with it, seeing what it needs, growing that awareness, but also knowing yourself and where you're at with different things.
For sure. And it even goes as far as acknowledging, like, you're changing year to year, like your needs, your desires, your dreams, your goals,
Yeah.
what you want your life to look like. So as opposed to it sort of taking this lifestyle approach like the eating sort of would do of like it's rigid and it's like locked in and it's
Yes.
static, like we're flowing like a river. It's always gonna be like, well, what are my needs now? How am I changing now? And like I feel like I'm someone who I do like change and I do like to move around. And that could be like, where am I living? Who am I surrounding myself by? What type of movement serves me? Like, what kind of food am I liking? Like, am I enjoying at the moment? What kind of conversations do I want to be around? And, being attuned ultimately to yourself internally means you're always going to be attuned externally. And that could even be like, say you're spending time with someone, you're like, I don't really necessarily like this energy, or, I don't think this is my kind of person. You can acknowledge that as well. And that does sometimes make life hard as well. Like, I think when you know yourself, it's almost like you're so aware when you, like kind of like veer away from that a little bit, and that can feel really hard. But I also think that's such a beauty of knowing yourself. You're always going to have to be like reassessing and like having these conversations with yourself about, well, what's the next best thing for me? Like when, I think when you can access a deep sense of understanding with yourself and acknowledgement of who you are, that's something that I'm always going to want to follow, and I'm always going to want to keep evolving and understanding.
Mm-hmm.
And do you
Yeah.
feel like it has evolved for you then, like throughout your recovery and beyond?
Mm.
Like, what does embodiment mean to you now, and how has that changed and evolved for you?
Yeah. I would have said 5 years ago that I have a strong sense of self. And I feel like that felt like so totally true to me in that time. And now I feel like I would say now feel like I have like such a strong sense of self. Which I also think just comes through life experience and like when you have like a few more years behind you as well. But embodiment, like for example, embodiment to me, it's like there's this like a huge storm outside and the sky is black, but I love swimming when it's raining. Like there's something so powerful about that. So I like went for an ocean swim this morning and then just sat on the beach. And I think it's like one of those things, humans are so conditioned to like lean away from things that would be like uncomfortable. But I think it's like, I'm already wet. I've been in the ocean. Like I may as well just, sit on the beach in the warm rain. So that's what embodiment looked like for me today. Or if it's also just, I have it's 5 p.m. in Australia at the moment. I have this meeting and then a couple of meetings after this. So it really looked like me resting in the day. So I then had energy to lean into my night. So that was me being really attuned to what my needs were today.
So one thing that you did say, Hol, as well, was like that you do like to move around, you do like to experience different
Yeah,
things. And one of the things that I'm so interested to find out about is like the silent retreats you do. As I'm
sure.
sure most people listening will see that you're a very bubbly person. You always have got something really interesting to say. So why silent retreats?
So they're called Vipassanas, and I've done a handful of them now. So ultimately, what they are, they're a 10-day silent meditation retreat where you talk to no one. Like, I mean, there is someone you can talk to if you're like psychologically really struggling, but really it's just you talk to yourself or you talk to the meditation teacher, and that's all. I think my curiosity really led me to Vipassana. I think I like being mentally challenged, and I
Hmm.
also knew through my recovery journey that when I go deep, I evolve as a person. So I think I was likely seeking that. That's probably what sparked my initial curiosity with it. It I would say personally was more challenging for me than recovery. Like I actually just I had no idea what I was getting into. And yet I did it multiple times and it actually didn't get easier. It just changed. I think each time I've done it, I was able to go deeper. So it got hard again, but it was like a different kind of hard. I think the first one I did, I was just so stoked to get to the end, the last day without pulling out. I mean, it's not a jail. You are allowed to leave. But then I think on my next one, because sort of I knew I could do it, I knew I could sit down, even sitting down cross-legged for 10 days, it's like really unnatural for your knees to do that. So like experiencing like quite a bit of physical pain and back pain and things.
You
I knew I could,
stand still for 10 days, cross
yeah.
and stay quiet.
Yeah, like you eat, obviously,
Oh,
like you have breaks where you get to like eat, but you're in the meditation hall for 12 hours. It's wild. It's
what?
so wild. I'm like so stoked when it's like the food breaks. Yeah.
I would be too.
Yeah,
Oh my
something I really
God.
struggled with was also the lack of sleep because you
Yeah.
meditate till like 9:30 at night. I'm a like 8 p.m. sleeper.
Oh, us
And
too.
then yeah, and then there's like a bell in the morning at like 3:30 to get up to meditate. So I was actually struggling to like
Sounds like my life with my kids.
stay awake. Yeah, and I'm like
With
falling
us.
asleep in the meditations, and people will wake you up as well. So it's like it's pretty hardcore, and it's I felt such a sense of loneliness. I'd never not spoken to anyone in 10 days, and like so much comes up. You feel like you're moving through so much every day. There's points of the
Really?
day where I feel $1 million, and I'm so proud, and like just the endorphins and the oxytocin of like doing something like this and challenging yourself so much was amazing. And then later that day, I'd be just so pissed off and I just didn't want to be there anymore. And I was like so existential and I just wanted to like eat a bag of popcorn and like just there was just nothing, like it was just so tricky. But I think something I learned was that when all those emotions were coming up, I could either choose to hold on to them and sit with that for 48 hours, or I could be like, or I can move through it. So what are we going to choose? So it really, I think, attuned me to having to be like, there is a level of this that is out of my control, and there's a level of this that is in my control, and that's how I'm responding to my situation. I think one of the maybe like the biggest learning I've taken from these retreats is just this crazy awareness of what happens when life switches off. So like there's no emails, no one can message you, you don't have a phone, you can't write, there's no books, like there's like no stimulation. I was like so desperate for stimulation. There's like a notice board. It's got like nothing written on it. And I would just be standing there for like 40 minutes reading like the three dot points because I just like felt a need. I was like reading the back of my shampoo, like word for word. Like I'm so bored. But just even leaving the retreat, my mind was so still. It was so quiet. And I felt like I had sort of like leveled up my awareness of my emotional state. And and then I was really sensitive to like light,
I was going to
noise,
say,
anything. I
yeah.
remember
Did you find the
leaving and
world
going to
very overstimulating when you got back in?
yeah, I remember like filling up petrol and I was like there are so many lights and there's so many energies and like a lot of these like voices are really loud. And even like food, like I found food was I was like, whoa, this is like so flavorful, just like normal food. Because a lot of the food you eat there, it's very simple. It's like a lot of like just like curries and rice and very like earthy things. So even like coming back to food, I was like, whoa, there's just so much like flavor and taste and light and noise and all these things in the world. Um, so I feel like they're remarkable to do, so incredibly challenging. The last one I did was only a 3 day one as opposed to a 10, and I was like, oh, 3 days, easy peasy. This is gonna be super, super easy. I actually think it may have been the hardest one I did. Yeah, I think because it takes a while to like
Get
get
into
used to
it.
the schedule and get into it. And then it's sort of over, but still like a lot comes up. So they're profound, incredibly challenging, but I also feel like I don't think anything good in life comes
Comes
easily.
easy, 100%. And where do you do
Mm.
it? Which country are you in when you're doing them?
So I've done one in Bali and I've
Nice.
done three in Australia. If you look up Vipassana, there's centers all around the world. It's also
Mhm.
all by donation. So it's like at the end, you just like donate however much you think. It's like it's very much like a pay forward for the next person who's going to sit. And then the people that work there are like doing service. They're all volunteering. So then I've sat three and then I've done service for two. And I think actually doing service was almost actually maybe even like more interesting and powerful than the meditation themselves,
Mm.
because you're really this expression of meta, of like loving kindness. Like no one's saying thank you to you like for like cooking for 10 days, but it's really just you being like, I'm holding these people through nourishment as they're like going through this really big journey. So I feel like that was also super special, the experience of like deep service.
And
Beautiful.
how many people are on them? Do you get to speak to them at the end? Like, how was your experience?
Yes.
I'd be dying to know, like, people around
Yes.
me, what's going
You're
on.
dying to know. But you also, it's a bit strange because you really like, I made up all these narratives about being like, I know exactly who this person is. And then
Yeah.
someone would speak and then have like a French accent. I'd be like, whoa, 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 whoa. That's not what I thought you were going to sound like. But yeah, you talk for like, you arrive on day 0 and then at 5 p.m. at like midday and at 5 p.m. it's like noble silence until day 10. And then you can talk to people at the end. But like, it's hard because you see some people leave. Like some people like aren't able to get through it. Like, people are going through a lot and you're sort of just witnessing, like holding people in a space. I remember on the first one I did, this is, you're not actually meant to do this, but I was sharing a room with this girl. We were probably of similar age. And there was a day and I was just an emotional marshmallow. I was just so teary, so much was coming up. And you're absolutely not allowed to do this, but it was just such an act of kindness. But she like went into the forest. There was this beautiful forest around and like made me this little flower bouquet and just like put it next to my bed. And I was like, oh, just this act of just compassion was so overwhelming because you're really like, you're on a deep inward experience, but you're also very much sharing this space with other people.
Wow. As human beings, we are drawn to these kind of like practices or some sort of like pilgrimage or some sort of moment of
Yes.
like going inwards. And it's just, yeah, you're a wise soul hole, I would say. Like, I can't believe you're just turning 30 to this.
Mm.
Like, you're very, very wise. And you mentioned there about like the food part of like serving them the food. And this is another passion of yours, right? Is that you have this joy of cooking. It's something that you brought to the Beyond Body retreats that you've done with Mia in Bali and Australia, I think. And I've seen the videos and pictures of like all the food you
Hmm.
created. It's like an art. You create art with food, which is like so amazing to me because I'm rubbish at cooking, like really bad. So could you tell us a bit more about that of like how is that always been a part of your life? Have
Sure.
you always enjoyed cooking? And like if somebody is interested in it, like how do you make sure that you keep it in like a healthy way as opposed to like a disordered way where food just becomes a
Yeah.
really massive focus?
Yeah. Mm. I think in some way or another, food has always been really important to me. My mum was like, is still an absolute rubbish cook, but I grew up with a single mum, so there was just never like much time for like big family dinners and things, and I think that was something I really craved. But my
Mm.
grandma is like the most amazing cook, so I have such vivid memories of like sitting on her counter when I was younger, and she'd like make us. When you like have milkshakes in like the tall like metal cups. I just have such
Mm.
beautiful memories of that. And so I feel like there was always this sort of connection of how I would understand love through food. Obviously, it became really disordered because it actually became, when I was young and my parents went through a divorce. I very much how I processed a lot of my emotions was through food and then also like the lack of food. So it got really lost there for a while. And so I'm so grateful that it's something that has like found its way home to me. I really think, obviously eating is a basic need, but I think to eat with kindness is a learnt skill.
Mm.
And I think to feed your body, but to also be able to simultaneously feed your mind and feed your soul, it really requires this understanding that yeah, food is nourishment, obviously, but it's also pleasure and it's heritage and it's a community and it's love and it can be expression and embodiment, it can be meditation and it's joy and it's memory. I think I feel like I'm a very sensory person, so I'll relate a lot of memory to smell. So even when I smell like stovetop coffee, it reminds me of this like beautiful house I lived in with some girlfriends like 10 years ago. And that's like the smell of friendship to me. And I think something that has always really saddened me was this idea that our access to pleasure and the expansive potential of food and all it can be is determined to some extent by the stories we've been told about what our body deserves. And, I think my relation to food kind of feels like a rebellion to that. And so being able to intertwine these two worlds of recovery coaching and food it's sort of felt like this is what was always going to happen for me. I just needed to like live some life and do some things first.
Mm.
So I the retreats that Mia and I have hosted in Australia, I have catered them, which is so special to have people who are going through recovery, actually being able to like witness the experience of me like cooking the food. And I run a mindful cooking class, so it's really like embodiment comes into the actual cooking process of it. I really think cooking and food generally, when approached with this lens of healing, it offers us so much. It is this space to practice presence and creativity, and just it's a space where I can just make mistakes and I can try new things and I can bring people together. My approach to cooking is like, yeah, if you make a great omelet, that's awesome. But if you don't, that's as equally awesome. Like, if you were present in the experience and you're able to practice like getting out of rigidity and making mistakes, and if you burn the food, but you're chatting, it's because you're chatting to the neighbor, that's what it's kind of about. If you make something great at the end of it, it doesn't matter. I hear so many people, like you sort of said before, Seth, being like, I'm rubbish at cooking. But I think when you're looking at cooking in a really like linear way, a lot of people think that, but it doesn't have to be about making good food. I think it can be like kind of like making this art from food. There's been so many times that I've like made a cake and I've like used the wrong ingredient, or there's been like so much rice stuck to the bottom of the pot. And now I just sort of like see it as a metaphor for like you're living well. It's not about, so many people obviously who have eating disorders also really struggle with this perfectionistic nature.
Mm.
And I think that's why so many people don't get in the kitchen, because they're like, oh, like it's not very good, or like it wasn't
That's
seasoned
what
enough
it
or
is.
whatever it is.
Mm.
Yeah, and it's like, well, it's actually when we can shift that, it's not about like intellectualizing it and then like coming up with this like perfect product. It's about how you felt through the experience. So I think when I was really able to understand food through this way more expansive lens, it is absolutely a form of embodiment that I come back to every single day. And I think for some people, maybe how to step into this world at the beginning, if it's, they really struggle with food and it feels super, super daunting, is to find other ways to connect with the process that are non-disordered. So that would be like doing it with other people and just
Mm.
understanding like, we're trying to do something completely different. Like, let's get the outcomes completely off the table. It's about like using your hands. I think there's like such a magic that happens for me when I'll go to the market on a Tuesday morning and like get whatever produce is there and whatever meat is there and like make something with my own hands that has literally come from the earth. Like that is like the coolest phenomenon to me.
Amazing. And where do you get like recipe ideas, that kind of thing? Or are you creative and inventive?
I'm a very like, let's just throw it in and see what happens. When I'm like writing recipes or sharing recipes with clients, I actually really challenge them I like don't put measurements on there. I'll be like, and a little shake of sugar and like a pretty decent handful of this. Like use really general terms because it really
Love
puts
that.
people in a position where they have to practice intuition, right? If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But also, say you're making like a curry paste, so much of the learning there is going to come from like tasting and being like, what does it need? Like again, practicing the attunement. Like, do we need something salty? Do we need something spicy? Do we need some like more sweetness to it? And then they really have to learn to trust themselves as opposed to externalizing their trust like in a recipe or what someone else is telling them. So when I give clients recipes, they like will freak out a little bit and be like, I don't know what to do. I'm like, I know, but you just have to figure it out. And like, I'm witnessing it to like hold space for you, but it's okay if it sucks, but maybe it also won't. And that's awesome.
Wow, that's so inspiring, Holly. Honestly, I'm actually really inspired to go and try and make something. This is me. I like the exact amount. So, but like so I'm half Pakistani, and I'm always like, right, guys, give me this recipe for this curry. It's incredible. And I'm like, right, I'm there with my pencil and my pen, like, right, ready to like write it down. Pencil and pen, pencil and paper, ready to write it down. They're like, Sphere andaza. So like that, like in Urdu, that kind of means like just kind of see what looks good, what tastes good, what seems good. They're like, I can't give you an exact measurement. And it's like that what you're saying is like just get in tune, practice, just do it, get it wrong. It's okay.
I think you have to make mistakes to get better at this.
Yeah.
Um, over time, you kind of figure out, oh, I really like these flavor combinations, or this way of cooking really worked for me, or like I really like, I practice a lot of presence in the kitchen. Like, say you're making a risotto, like don't walk away from the stove. You want to be there and be present in the experience. When I
Mm.
write a lot of meditations, not meditations, what am I saying? When I write a lot of recipes, I'll also really try to include like mindfulness aspects with them, right? So like light a candle, put your phone away, really try to like think about what the intention is here to make it more of like a full-bodied experience. Yeah, also probably going to be full flavored, but it's just there's so much more there that is like someone can access when we approach it in this way.
Mm. Interesting.
there. Is it okay?
Going good. We're good.
Okay.
We're good. Holding in there.
Phew. Phew.
Is there anything else we've not asked or anything you want us to
I think
ask?
I think just the last one. Do you want to ask the last one, Meg? It was just about any advice kind of thing at the end.
Or should we go where to find you as well? Would that be
As
it?
where to, yeah, definitely. Yeah. Oh, are you still doing a book club and stuff like that? And you're cooking
I,
and
I, yes, I am.
talk
Yeah.
about it all. Talk about everything, okay?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Can.
Okay.
Um.
I'll ask it so we can edit that and then it will sound like it's come after a question.
Got it.
Um, okay, so for people listening, should I just ask about where to find you, or do you want me to do about advice, encouragement? Or do you
Whatever.
want...
Whatever.
Okay.
Yeah, we can do that.
So for people listening, Holly, that would like to find you, where can they do that? What things do you offer? What services do you have?
Yeah, absolutely. So my website is highbeautiful.com.au. You can find me on Instagram at highbeautiful. You can find me on TikTok at a spoonful of Sunday. My last name is Holly Sunday, which is a real play on that, which my TikTok is actually more of a combination of like the food things and the recovery stuff. So there is some recipes there that will have no measurements on them, Saf, if you want to have a go.
I am doing it. It is happening. Yeah. My daughter loves to cook as well, so it will be a
Oh,
lovely thing to do
beautiful.
together. Yeah.
Beautiful. I also do run a book club, which is monthly. So you can sign up to that via my website as well. It's for anyone. We just may have different time zones, but it is monthly. As well as I'm also a coach at Beyond Body. So you can also find me at the Beyond Body website.
Fabulous. And what kind of books do you do in your book club?
It's really mixed.
Mm.
So sometimes there will be a vote, but sometimes a lot of time it actually is just like really easy chick flick books, and then we'll talk about the different themes. Sometimes we'll do a harder read, but we'll have like 2 months to read it if it's like a little bit more dense. But sometimes like it's just really fun to read a little rom-com book and then talk about it with the gals.
So is it you read a book per month and then meet up monthly, what, for like an hour or something and talk through
Yeah, yeah.
it?
So I'll send out the book 2 months in advance of like this is what the book is, and then it's just via Zoom. People sign up, and then a week before, I send out an email with some questions about the book to like get people thinking about it, and then we just meet up and like have a chat. It's usually Australian afternoons, and you can have a cup of tea, you can have a wine, you can have a snack, you can do whatever you want. It's just super lovely. It's like there's some consistent people, and then a lot of the time there's just new people coming every month.
I love that because with my clients, when they're starting to explore, like, what am I interested in life? I'm always like, try a book club because I did it in my recovery and absolutely loved it. Met such nice people. It gave me a focus for the month, like, read a
Mm,
book. It wasn't too
yeah,
overwhelming, but it did feel like, also, I do love reading, but it's hard to fit it in life sometimes. But knowing you've just got one book in the month and you're meeting other people to
yeah.
talk about it, so you're quite motivated to do it. I just felt like it was such a lovely way to like meet people and bring in a hobby.
Hmm. It's so nice. I'm really into clubs at the moment. I feel like if you're like new somewhere or you want to meet new people, join a club. I'm in heaps of clubs. I have a craft club, I have a supper club, I have a book club.
How do you find them, or is it
Oh,
ones you've created?
yeah.
There's the area that I live in, there's quite a lot of social things going on. So I found these over Instagram, these ones. Obviously, I run the book club. Um, but I feel like a lot of time there actually is people who are in a similar situation who just want to meet new people. And, I think again, something recovery tells you is like teaches you, sorry, you got to get out of your comfort zone and do hard things and put yourself in situations with people whom you don't know. So I feel like clubs is a great way to do that. Like no one's in a club because they don't want to meet people.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I've heard
Love
of
that.
Meetup as well. I don't know if you've ever used that, but apparently there's lots of like in your area, this club and this club runs, or like events that are on certain days of the week.
Yes, yes. I did heaps of meet clubs last year. I was traveling for most of the year, just working remotely coaching. So I did heaps of meetups then.
Yeah,
What
I
ones did
love
you do?
that.
I did I'm a big surfer, so I did a lot of surfing ones in Africa and in Europe and in Central America, but also like girls' craft hobbies. I did that. I played tennis, never played tennis before in my entire life. Did lots of like walking tour ones.
Wow. I was speaking to my cousin recently and she has moved to a new city and so she's going to meet up things. And she went to one the other day that was lock picking. It was just, I don't know if it's like an hour or something like that at a local pub. I don't actually even know. But yeah, she went on Meetup. She's like, I wonder what's coming up this week. And there was lock picking. So she signed up and went.
Lock
Okay.
picking.
And
As in to like
now
break
she knows,
into people.
yeah, yeah. Now she knows how to pick
Like
a lock.
I'd quite like to know how
I'd be
to.
interested. I'd be interested to see the who that one brought
Find out.
to the meeting.
Like, the people that you're
Everyone's black and
around.
white stripy t-shirts.
How funny! I'd be like, I probably wouldn't be sharing my address.
Don't park outside. Careful of your car.
Oh, that's
How
brilliant.
funny! But yeah, there's a lot of clubs out there,
Yeah.
everyone.
She did board games as well, which I just feel like is quite cool. That can be quite fun. Just as a way of
Yeah,
exploring things in
absolutely.
recovery, like what else might I be interested in and how to meet people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, really good.
Of course.
Right,
Yeah,
wrap up.
honestly, thank you so much, Hol. You are honestly absolutely amazing. Literally, we have loved this discussion so much. You're
Oh,
such
I'll
a
stop.
positive.
No.
No, I am gonna say it. You are such a positive, bubbly, lovely, wise person. Just bottle you up. Just have a little burst of you in the morning. You are just so positive and wonderful. And yeah, thank you so much. So much to take away for all of our listeners and also selfishly for ourselves. So yeah, thank you so much.
Oh, no, thank you so much for having me and those kind words. This has been so nice. I love these kind of conversations.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Holly. Thanks for your energy. You're brilliant.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks so much for having me. This has been great.
Have a good rest of your day. Thank you so
You
much.
too. Bye. I'll talk to you
Bye.
guys soon.
Bye bye.